There are moments in history when the fate of an entire civilization hangs on a single heartbeat, a single decision, a single blade. On the morning of March 15th, 44 BC, one of the most powerful men the world had ever known walked into the Roman Senate, unaware that nearly 60 men had already decided he would never walk out again. Within minutes, the conqueror of Gaul, the greatest general of his age, the man who had reshaped Rome, would lie bleeding at the foot of a statue. His death would not save the Republic, it would destroy it. This is not merely the story of an assassination. It is the story of betrayal, power, ambition, and the moment history changed forever. Long before he became a legend, Julius Caesar was simply another ambitious young Roman noble. He was born in 100 BC into a respected but not particularly wealthy aristocratic family. Rome was already the greatest power in the Mediterranean. Its armies were unmatched. Its roads stretched across continents. Its Senate ruled over millions. But beneath that magnificent empire, the Republic was beginning to crack. Political corruption had become routine. Powerful generals commanded armies more loyal to themselves than to Rome. The rich grew richer. The poor became increasingly desperate. The Republic that Romans proudly celebrated was slowly becoming a battlefield for ambitious men. Caesar understood something few others did. If Rome was changing, someone would eventually control that change. He intended that someone to be him. Unlike many politicians, Caesar possessed an extraordinary gift. He understood people. He could inspire soldiers to follow him into impossible battles. He could captivate crowds with powerful speeches. He knew exactly when to be generous and exactly when to be ruthless. His rise was anything but easy. He accumulated enormous debts. He made dangerous political alliances. He survived enemies who wanted him dead long before the famous assassination. Every victory brought him closer to greatness, but also closer to powerful men who feared him. Then came the campaign that would transform him forever. Gaul, modern-day France and parts of Belgium. Over nearly a decade, Caesar led Roman legions through forests, rivers, mountains, and fierce tribal resistance. He wasn't simply winning battles. He was rewriting military history. His soldiers crossed rivers thought impossible, built bridges in days, constructed massive fortifications overnight. At the Battle of Alesia, Caesar achieved what many historians still consider one of history's greatest military victories. Surrounded by enemies, he ordered his army to build 2 enormous defensive walls, one facing inward, to trap those inside the city, the other facing outward, to defend against a massive rescue army. It was engineering, strategy, and leadership combined into one astonishing masterpiece. When the battle ended, Gaul belonged to Rome, and Caesar belonged to history. But success often creates its own enemies. As Caesar's fame spread, the Roman Senate became increasingly nervous. One man now possessed immense wealth, the loyalty of battle-hardened legions, and the love of the Roman people. To many senators, that combination was terrifying. They feared Caesar would become king. For Romans, the very word king carried painful memories. Centuries earlier, Rome had overthrown its monarchy to establish the Republic. Never again, they believed, should one man hold absolute power. The Senate ordered Caesar to surrender his command and return to Rome as an ordinary citizen. Caesar knew exactly what that meant. Without his army, he would almost certainly face prosecution, perhaps even execution. Standing beside a shallow river known as the Rubicon, he faced the greatest decision of his life: cross and begin civil war, or obey and lose everything. History tells us he smiled, then uttered words that still echo today: "The die is cast." And with that, he crossed the Rubicon. There was no turning back. Civil war swept across the Roman world. Former allies became enemies. Brother fought brother. Cities chose sides. The Republic tore itself apart. Eventually, Caesar defeated his greatest rival, Pompey the Great. He entered Rome victorious. Crowds celebrated. Statues were erected. Honors poured in. He was appointed dictator for life. To ordinary Romans, he was the hero who ended years of chaos. To many senators, he had become exactly what they feared, a king without the crown. Yet history often overlooks another side of Caesar. He wasn't simply a conqueror. He introduced sweeping reforms. He reorganized government, reduced corruption, expanded citizenship, improved debt laws, established colonies for veterans. Most famously, he reformed the calendar. The Julian calendar became so accurate that much of today's calendar still follows its structure more than 2,000 years later. His influence reached beyond politics. It shaped everyday life. But reforms cannot erase fear, and fear can become more dangerous than ambition. Whispers spread through the Senate. If Caesar was allowed to live, would the Republic survive, or had it already died? Among those asking these questions was a man Caesar deeply trusted, Marcus Junius Brutus. History remembers Brutus as the face of betrayal, yet reality was far more complicated. Brutus admired Caesar. Some accounts suggest Caesar treated him almost like family. Others even whispered, though without proof, that Caesar might have been his father. Whether true or not, the emotional bond between them was undeniable, and that is what makes what happened next so heartbreaking. The conspirators convinced themselves they weren't murderers. They believed they were saviors. Nearly 60 senators secretly joined the plot. They chose the Ides of March, March 15th. The Senate meeting would provide the perfect opportunity. According to ancient historians, warnings surrounded Caesar. A soothsayer reportedly cautioned him, "Beware the Ides of March." His wife, Calpurnia, dreamed of his death. She begged him not to go. Even that morning, friends warned him that something felt wrong. Imagine standing at your own front door, knowing those you love fear for your life. Would you stay home, or would pride convince you that no one dared challenge you? Caesar chose to go. The Senate chamber was unusually crowded. As Caesar took his seat, the conspirators slowly surrounded him. One senator stepped forward with what appeared to be a simple request. Suddenly, he grabbed Caesar's toga. It was the signal. Knives flashed. Chaos erupted. The first blow landed. Then another. Then another. Caesar fought back. Ancient accounts describe him struggling against multiple attackers until he saw Brutus, the man he trusted. Whether Caesar actually spoke the famous words, "Et tu, Brute?" historians continue debating. The phrase became immortal centuries later through William Shakespeare. Ancient Roman sources offer different versions. Some suggest Caesar said nothing at all. Others record a brief phrase in Greek, but the symbolism remains timeless. Sometimes, the deepest wounds don't come from enemies, they come from friends. Caesar collapsed beneath 23 stab wounds. Only one, modern medical experts believe, was likely fatal. The others reflected panic, frenzy, and fear. The greatest man in Rome lay dead beneath the statue of Pompey, his greatest rival. History possesses a cruel sense of irony. The conspirators expected applause. Instead, Rome fell silent. People fled. Markets closed. Confusion spread through the city. The assassins had believed killing Caesar would save the Republic. Instead, they had unleashed something far more dangerous. Civil war returned. This time, even bloodier. A young man named Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, rose to power. Together with Mark Antony, he hunted down the assassins. Brutus and Cassius eventually took their own lives after defeat. The Republic, the very system the conspirators hoped to protect, never recovered. Within a generation, Rome became an empire. Octavian took a new name, Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Ironically, the men who killed Caesar to prevent dictatorship created an emperor. More than 2,000 years later, the assassination of Julius Caesar still captivates the world, because it wasn't merely political violence. It was a lesson about power, about fear, about loyalty, about the fragile lines separating democracy from ambition. Historians still debate one haunting question. If Caesar had lived, would history have unfolded differently? Would the Roman Republic have survived? Would there have been emperors? Would Western civilization itself have taken another path? We'll never know. What we do know is that a handful of knives changed the course of history. One assassination reshaped an empire, and echoes of that moment still linger in every debate about leadership, power, and the price of political ambition. Perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't that Julius Caesar died. Every human life eventually ends. The real tragedy is that those who believed they were saving Rome may have destroyed the very republic they loved. History rarely changes with a single sword. Sometimes it changes with 23 blades, and the consequences can echo for thousands of years. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please take a moment to like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe for more fascinating documentaries exploring the world's greatest civilizations, untold stories, and enduring mysteries. Thank you for watching. Until our next journey through time, stay curious.